so much for joining me this morning. I want to tell you guys about some really cool art books that have shaped my identity as an artist, and maybe you can be inspired too. All of the things that have inspired me haven't made me like a carbon copy of the people that I was looking at. More so, they've given me that inspiration and that drive to learn skills and then find the confidence in myself and like where I fit. I haven't flipped through these in a while, so this is gonna be like live. Like you're gonna be looking through these with me, so hopefully you like that. With that being said, my name is Quill and this is Bewildering Studio. So if you are an artist or an art enthusiast, go ahead and like and subscribe before you forget, because hopefully you like this video and you want to return to see more. We are actually going to have a word from our sponsor today, and then I'm going to get into breaking out these books and showing you what I got. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I'm just working on this project, and oh gosh, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Has that ever happened to you, where you realized you're working on a project for 14 hours straight, forgot to eat dinner, definitely didn't take your psych meds, and you cannot for the life of you remember the last time that you brushed your hair? If that's the case, you're actually in luck, because at quillcastro.podia.com, I have tons of habit trackers, calendars, and I even do customs, so you can find exactly what you need in order to take control of your life right now, 5 minutes from now, in 1947, or in 18 more hours after you're done working on this sketch, because we all know that time is just a social construct anyway. Now here are the books in question, and this is not an exhaustive list. These are the ones that I've kept in my collection, and they're in no particular order. The first book I want to talk about is Fantasy Characters: How to Draw Fantastic Beings and Incredible Creatures. I really like the style, and I think that this has inspired me in a lot of random ways. You can definitely see, especially in my older sketchbooks, some clear influences. And I don't remember exactly all of these books, like what exactly is inside of them. So if I see something, I'll say something about a comment on it. This is a lot of different kinds of creatures. It talks about, as you can see, like shading and forms. So the kind of technical things that you need, like how to use color, how to work with proportions and things like that. Talks about different types of entities, including humans, and then one of these things that I've definitely taken away from is how to do braids. And this is the kind of method that I still use to this day on how to draw braids. So this is like one of the skills that I'm talking about that I've taken away from this, even though I didn't really try to copy the style. This you can see in one of my older sketchbooks. If you've ever seen me do posts on those, I've definitely done similar poses. That's one of the things that I really like about this artist, is that there's a lot of variety in different poses and full body images. This I just think is just a really beautiful drawing. I really think that things like this would be in a bedroom or like above an altar or something. I've always really loved front and center characters that are full body. So again, more like skills and things like that. And definitely a lot of different creatures. I'm going to flip through so you can kind of see more. But I've pretty much told you essentially all I've really gathered from this is just kind of ideas on types of characters. Really like that one. This dragon art one is from the same author. This guy, I'm not going to say the names of any of the people on here. I'm just going to show you guys the author. This one I got when I was trying to draw dragons. And this is specifically when I went through a dragon phase. So like I wanted to know like how to draw certain textures. And this is something that really helped me with like skin and fur and things like that. When I was going through this book, though, there were certain things that caught me about how he used reference to other animals, like in the real world, you know? So, let me see. Animal-like front limbs. He talks about the features of the body parts. So like the features of the body parts, like how body parts on dragons are used. So like muscles and things like that, like wings. Basically, a lot of the things that I think that they bring up like issues for when it comes to drawing fantasy creatures is that they have to be plausible. Like you have to make it work. Like for example, like let's say like a mountain goat or whatever. Like obviously they're gonna have very specific body features that's gonna allow them to scale mountains that are different than the body features of a human. So because like I mean, without tools, we can't really do what they do. This is really cool. Reminds me of like a circus, like an old circus. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to talk about is Dreamscapes. I think that I got this one from Michael's eons ago. So originally, when I was really, really little and I became an artist, I identified as a fantasy artist in the sense that I did almost exclusively fairies and mermaids and elves. And I think that as an adult, I identify a little bit more of a surrealist artist as well as a portrait artist. And I still do creatures like this. I've put a lot of elements of fae into my more like human characters. But this actually helped me a lot in my like personal identity, and I'm going to show you why in a second. But this is watercolor, and I love watercolor. Goddamn, like this is like stained glass. This is amazing. I actually have a tarot card deck by this artist, which I might start doing like YouTube shorts. That's just kind of like a little side note just for me. I was thinking about doing YouTube shorts where I like talk about one card per short. This artist is so detailed, and they taught me how to do a lot of different poses for mermaids that I've kind of used in a sense that I've always kind of like known subjects that I want to paint and things like that, but sometimes I have a difficult time figuring out what I want them to be doing in this scene. And a lot of times I do faces, and this was one of the artists that really helped me get a little bit more creative. But she just kind of gave me an idea of like the things that are available to me that I wouldn't have already like thought of to even look up or discover myself. This is a huge skill. Okay, so when I first started painting, I didn't really think about bleeding. See how this is running in together, the green and the blue? That's because she painted one and then she painted the other before the first color dried. And so she talks about like making clean edges. But this is also a technique if you want to do wet on wet watercolor painting to give that effect. But she talks about that, and I think that's really important in watercolor, because watercolor is really hard to control, and a lot of people see that watercolor is really fast. You can cover a lot of things and it dries really fast, but she talks about being able to really control where you want your colors to go. These kinds of textures and things like that, I've talked about each and every one of these techniques to create texture in your paintings in my in-person classes, and these are things that I still talk about to this day. Inspiration photos. So this one section is all about fairies. I definitely used inspiration for how she draws hands versus how the last guy that I just talked to draws hands. So like, see how she uses like all of these like lines? She does use some forms, but it's more so like lines and like placement, and that's definitely something that I've adopted rather than those kind of like circular blocky shapes. Yeah, so she's definitely inspired me in the wing department, because the placement, this is kind of another thing that I talked about in this last book, like the dragon art, is your features of your characters need to be functional, they need to make sense. So like where your wings are going to be on a fairy is going to determine like how well they can fly and if they can lift their own body weight and things like that. I love how her things just glow. Like this is literally watercolor. It's not like shiny paint. She's just so talented in being able to just make things look so ethereal. I've definitely tried to copy quite a few of her paintings. I remember trying to copy this pose specifically. I actually did a study on mermaids because of this section. The tools that she gave me, I used to kind of like make an assignment for myself to kind of do like a study on mermaids based on fish. This is one that I tried to copy, the spikes. I freaking love spikes on mermaids. I just think that's so cool. Meniscus. I love how she does this. So like the top of the water. This is something that I've always tried to like build my skill on, and she was a huge contributor to me like actually being able to understand how to make the water surface look separate from the sky without just making it like a line down the middle. She's so good at drawing the meniscus, so like that top portion between the air and like the vessel of water. So yeah, I've definitely taken some skills from things I've learned from her in that regard. I'm going to read this too. Physically developed muscular or upper arms, shoulders, and chest for supporting wings. Breasts might be smaller, but there are a large underlying framework to her chest. Okay, so physical strength. Emphasize some masculine qualities while maintaining an essential female nature. Her curves have hard edges to show her strength, and her body is more sturdy with an accentuated musculature. The feminine curve of breast and hip is underscored by the underlying frame. So this is talking about body types, and weirdly, this actually helped me become more confident as like a human. I seriously had such low self-esteem when I was a kid because I got made fun of for being like too thin, and I wasn't like femininely endowed. I hate that word, but I know everybody knows what it means, so I'm gonna say it here. But I used to get really embarrassed, and I pulled myself apart for my physical features, and I think that this artist actually really helped me learn how to love myself and my body for what it was. It's kind of wild because that doesn't directly affect my art, but subtly I think it does. Most of her paintings show very delicate, very long fingers and things like that. And in my inspiration that I got from her was, you know, to find beauty in different forms. I think that the older I get, the more natural my characters look, in the sense that, not that there aren't long, slender women shaped like women, but I think that my muses have been a little different, and I've kind of used myself and my body as inspiration and not tried to edit it in a way to make it like an ideal. So she actually inspired me in more than just art on paper. My next one that I want to talk about is How to Draw and Paint Fairies. This is one of my first books that I ever got. She will forever be like at the core of my art journey. And her muse, I believe, is her daughter. And because the reason that I think that is, I think that she has mentioned it in some areas, but a lot of her characters look very, very similar to her daughter in like features and essence in general, even if they're not superhuman, like even if they're more like an elf or something. They just look so much like her daughter. One super special thing about this that I wanted to show you though is that this is TQ's, so that's a nickname that my family gave me when I was really, really young. And if you look on this page, it says, "Return to Tranquility Castro." So that's the long version of my name. My name is Quill. That's what I go by as like a bastardization of my first name. And this is my grandmother's handwriting. And why this is so special to me is because my grandmother was an artist too, and she loved drawing mermaids. And she would draw like portraits of me and my sisters and my mom. And I let her borrow this book on fairies one time, and I didn't receive it back until after she died. And the reason I received it back is because someone found that she had written my name in it. And otherwise, I don't know if it would have been donated or if someone else would have taken it, but this is a really, really special book to me. So this beautiful, beautiful painting I tried to replicate, and in many, many of her paintings, I tried to just outright copy it. Like, I don't know what the art version would be for word, but if there's an art version for word, I copied this woman word for word. Many of her paintings, I have like entire sketchbooks, just copycat sketches. So that's kind of like the main thing from this, is emulating her and then finding my style in ways that I kind of like started with the way that she drew, and then I changed the drawings to make them my own. And to this day, I do think that I draw a lot like her. Maybe you don't think so, but I see a lot of similarities in some of my finished pieces with how she approaches drawing people. Like, I'm not even gonna really pick out specific paintings that I copied, because honestly, like, from here on out, just like assume I copied all of these. She does kind of the same thing as the last artist. I'm going to show you a close-up of her name because I forgot to do that in the first one. But yeah, so this artist right here, she does a lot of the same things that my last book author did. And that was go over different materials. And she does quite a lot of different mixed media, and this was one of my first introductions to mixed media. Before that, I did a lot of sketching, and then I experimented with watercolor, but she really opened my eyes to all the possibilities. These fancy artists, they use all of these different types of papers, but I don't know if I'm lazy or challenged. I just haven't gotten around to experimenting with this stuff. But if it really comes down to it, I'm probably more just broke and too afraid of messing up. So I haven't went and bought any of these different types of papers to experiment, honestly. A lot of my earlier paintings and drawings, you'll see that I do these darkened eyes. And I really, really love how it's just like a full pupil. There's no iris. And I still have, even like now, current works that aren't finished that I'm working on that have these, because I think it gives a really cool ethereal look. Like, it just separates them, that tiny like difference between human and ethereal. So I just love that kind of eye. And this is one of the things that I ended up deserting after a while. Is this is like, I think they call them like sausage limbs, but where people will like draw these like oblong shapes and circles. I pretty much scrapped that. My proportions are not the best, so maybe I'm not really one to be recommending that, but that's just what works for me currently. And when I did this kind of sausage thing, I feel like it didn't really look natural. But at this moment in time, when she wrote this book, this is what really helped me get an introduction into proportions, and then I just kind of like evolved and changed as I went along. There's no right or wrong way to do proportions. Everybody has their own style, and everybody like wants their end result to look different. All right, I'm gonna do a flip. Here we go. Clothing, having her as inspiration helped me to look at the world in different ways and find things that are in nature or just in my day-to-day life that I could use in my work for inspiration. She does the most amazing flowers. I'm just in awe of how beautiful the flowers are that she creates. She does talk about texture as well. Ooh, oh my gosh. Okay, maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. White gouache. Okay, here we go. So she does this thing where after she's done paintings, if she wants to do like a cool like splatter, she like covers parts of her painting that she doesn't want to have splatter on it, And I've pretty much been obsessed with just like splattering paint on my finished works in different areas. And I think that like the majority of my paintings actually have this kind of like splatter effect where I'll take like a toothbrush and I'll just kind of like scratch at it like after I put a layer of paint with my thumb and just splatter. And this is something that I've carried with me like this entire time. Like since I read this book, I've just like done it ever since. Alright, so I'm gonna find where her work ends. See, she uses a lot more. She uses acrylic, she uses watercolor. She just does so many different types of media, and I think that's really cool. Here we go, the gallery. So choosing your fairy type, fairy characters, fairy tales, elemental fairies, flower fairies, seasons, heralds, and magical fairies. So this is really, really cool because she highlights what I believe to be her favorite artist. Maybe she has a little blurb. Let's see. The paintings on these and the following 2 pages have been chosen to show a variety of different fairy types with characteristic features, facial expressions, clothing, and settings just like humans. No 2 fairies are alike, and it's important to build up a complete picture of your subject's personality and create a sense of mood. And then she shows the paintings and drawings and then gives credit to the artist. So through her gallery, I've actually found more artists that I like, that I've been able to follow. And I think that that's really, really fun and cool. I was able to find a lot of artists that I really, really like and I can get more inspiration from. This is a beautiful piece. I love looking at this piece. I think it would make an amazing greeting card. I don't know if it already is, but I love it. The variety here that she's collected is so nice. Okay, yeah, so that's the gallery, and we can move on to the final book. This one is called Draw and Paint the Realm of Fairy. This is the author. This artist's paintings are extremely, extremely detailed, and I can only imagine how many hours and years and months go into these paintings. Maybe not for this guy, but this is obviously his style. In my personal life, though, like, if I hold on to a painting and I'm trying to get too detailed with it, I'll never finish it. But I've definitely learned a lot about shading and different types of specifically work with pencil rather than just using like regular school pencils. These are like more really like professional art tools that he talks about using. These kinds of like shading styles I used to teach when I did in-person classes, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a video about the different types of shadings because that has been a request. Quite often people ask me about types of shading or how to shade. This is one of the books that I used for reference to learn all of those. Working with color. Even just this guy's sketches are so beautiful to look at, but the fact that like he also paints them, he's not just a sketch artist, just so shows how much skill this guy has. It's just freaking amazing. He does a lot of photo references. So this guy definitely does, I think, more realistic proportions. But, oh, here we go. Here's one of the photo references. So he, like, almost copies, like, exactly the women that he's drawing and creates them in a fantasy world. But he doesn't stylize a whole lot. Like, his characters definitely look almost exactly like the women that are his models. I think this is a book that helps me to think outside of the box in a lot of ways. I started taking a lot of pictures of myself, or I would like draw while I was looking in the mirror. So I would like stand in the bathroom and I would like take on certain poses and I would sketch a little bit and then I would have to make the pose again and try to get the shadows and things like that. But that's kind of how I became my own muse, was being inspired by photography rather than just, I'm going to make up a creature in my head, I'm going to think about this fantasy. It was like, how can I use actual photographs or actual live modeling to inspire my artwork and be able to use those references. So yeah, I definitely did that. But here, he talks about changing up the proportions to try and create a certain vibe. This guy's very technically skilled. He cares a lot to make these things look very, very realistic. But here is where he talks about exaggerating, slightly elongating some parts of the body, such as hands and arms. This elongation can clearly be seen in detail from the wife of Liu. Liu? I don't know how to pronounce that. But yeah, if you're aiming for a particular look, you can exaggerate features. And that's kind of something that I've done in a lot of my work, especially with like teeth. I really like big, strong teeth. There's a piece of advice that a lot of people who draw say, and that's that you shouldn't draw individual teeth. You should draw to kind of suggest teeth, otherwise it looks like chiclets, like the square gum. But I purposefully make my teeth individual. It's a certain effect that I'm going for. Now the rest of this, I'm just gonna flip through really quickly so that you can see his drawings. God, see the hair? It's like individual hair. It's so, how many hours? I have no idea. Okay, there's most of them. About the author. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe just in case you didn't listen to me earlier, and then go ahead and enjoy these lovely bloopers. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, and I strongly believe that, welcome to Bewildering Studio. My name is Quill, and on this channel I talk about all things art related. So you've thank you so much for watching. Now thank you so much for joining. Because at quillcastro.podia.com I have tons of trout cat. It's called Darling, look it up.